we should be up to go, and I think we are. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Joshua Files podcast. Thank you very much for everyone who has been listening, watching, or taking the time to, leave some feedback, some compliments, some criticism. Everything matters. I really enjoyed the last two episodes. This week episodes, which should be very fun. I will announce the next week's interviews, the 3-day interviews, maybe on Sunday, because the first one's going to be starting on Monday. So it's a little hint is one of the band members behind this background. I'm not going to tell you who because it's going to spoil the fucking fun. So why the fuck not? Today, I am here with the hardcore UK champion, so he calls to say himself. He is...
Well,
we could debate that later, all right? He is a very awesome guy. He is the frontman of the hardcore band called Vendetta, Mr. Tom Amos. Tom, thank you very much. How are you doing, bro?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, just finished work. I'm working from home, so just come upstairs, really.
Yeah, no, that's
cool.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, not too bad, man. I've been doing all right. Work has been very in structure, and considering that with COVID-19, it's bound to get worse. I can't really go into political with work because I've been in trouble for that once. So I need to be very good and not to say too much. Otherwise, the local media will get some heat, and then, well, that's all another scenario. We don't. Fuck.
That's bad.
That's a bit weird. Okay, so that's the first time. Let me just do something quickly.
Yeah, fine.
That was a little bit surprising, and we're still recording. Jesus Christ, that was a little bit bad. That could be a great outtake there. My internet just said it was fucking shit. I'm not going to replay that again, so we're just going to carry on as it goes.
That's cool. No.
COVID-19 has just been a pain in the ass to everybody, and especially with both of us working in different conditions, different structures, and like you're working at home, working in the office position, and I'm working in retail, just getting exposed, just love to put in the fight with customers, and, I want to rip people's heads off, but I can't do that. I need to be very decent. I need to, keep myself in harm's way with people in general. What's it been like for you living at home at the moment or working at home at the moment? I'm sure that's been a nightmare.
I work, it's about a 20-mile drive to work, so I'm saving quite a bit on fuel, to be fair, but I do get a bit cabin fevery at home. But we've got 3 cats. The wife's still going to work, so it's mainly the cats for company in the daytime. I'm a transport planner, so a lot of stuff I do is like on the phone. So I can't just sit and chill and play Xbox all day like I'd like to.
No.
But it's all right. I can't complain. I'm working full time. She's working full time still. We've both got an income. Like I've got it really lucky in the scheme of things.
Yeah. I mean, I know my family's in a self-employed position where my mother and my sister, I've got a cleaning business, and at this day and time, self-employed companies, they're likely going to be struggling to get income because with this whole situation, people can't go into other people's houses, like clean up people's houses, basically. Like that's how clean jobs go, And I'm sure that's the same with like gardening and roofing structures and all that stuff. They can't go anywhere near people because it's basically social distancing, and it's just against the conditions of the health policy. So basically, they've been out of business since pretty much since it's been started, which I would have to say it's been back in like almost March-ish time. And they've been struggling to make income, and it's not fantastic. But I suppose in the flip side, it's been great because they don't have to worry about paying rent. But I suppose when the whole rent policy lifts, they're going to have to actually make sure they pay rent and the overdue as well. So that's going to be an absolute nightmare. But I suppose anything can happen, especially if, let's say, for example, you two didn't have the jobs that you both need. You're both going to be struggling, and and everyone everyone that's in a furrow, yes, they'll be taking the extra 20% cut But the main important thing is they still need to go for their lives. They need to do daily activities. They need to actually go to work. They need to get out and socialize with people like many people do. At the end of the
Yeah,
day, it's really, really frightening situation. And considering we had this political announcement back on Sunday with Boris Johnson, I'm still a little bit confused of what the fuck I have to say about that, to be honest with you.
yeah,
And I'm sure many people in this country are kind of confused as well. I've read some reports about Vladimir Putin in Russia. I've done the same thing, and I'm just a little bit confused with that. But
yeah.
apparently the death tolls are still going up. So apparently the whole government is likely thinking about going back into this whole lockdown procedure. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's only going to get worse until it gets better, and nobody knows how much worse it's going to be when we get to that time.
Yeah,
So
it's,
I don't
yeah.
know what you have to say about it, man. Do you think personally it's going to be an absolute nightmare for people like you and myself to actually keep this going, or do you think it's going to be the case where many death tolls are going to have to rise still until things get really serious, where the army might have to come into play?
Oh, yeah, I hope not. I think like that trying to get it back. I understand from that they want to get the economy going again, but it's
Mm.
like how many lives is that worth?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what's the correct percentage of dead people to
Mm.
getting everyone's financial gain sorted? I know they the after seeing loads of stuff on Facebook, like all the VE Day celebrations and stuff like that, and Twitter's been wild for it. Just people like doing this like conga line thing,
Mm.
people doing random stuff, and a couple of weeks it will spike again. Everyone's gone back to work. You see things on the news every day, on the tubes and stuff like that, and it's going to get worse again. And it's shit for
I
everyone.
do agree. I do agree. I remember it was back in last week where I just did a Sunday night where it was kind of like an all nighter. Then I had the Friday work shift, and then basically it was victory day, and it was an absolute nightmare. I
Yeah,
basically just crashed out about 6 p.m. But as soon as I got home, fucking DJing was playing loud as possible.
yeah.
It
And
was just
it's worth celebrating. Like it's brilliant, and you should celebrate it.
yeah.
I think it should have just been sort of tried to keep it a bit more low key this year.
Mm.
But
I mean, I'm all down, as like you said, I'm all down to celebrate it, but I just got back from work, and I did
oh
an
yeah,
all-nighter, and I couldn't really be bothered with all that bullshit. And then,
oh yeah. Especially for a night shift, you don't want that.
no, and considering that the neighbors also, we have this WhatsApp group around this housing association place where the neighbors have been talking about this whole, parade going around, thinking, oh, it's worth it, and spamming the whole message up to all night, where the whole group message was supposed to be about COVID-19 situation and the protocols and health
Yeah,
and safety reasons, and they are fucking it around. And I still have neighbors around this whole community garden just taking the piss, just thinking it's
yeah,
just nothing. Just because they got nothing to do in their lives, they think it's okay to just mess around, which I think is unacceptable.
yeah. That's the
I've
thing.
got
My neighbours have been wicked.
no, man. It's absolute bullshit. And then I've got the other half of neighbors as well, just staying at home, doing what they gotta do. And I respect that, And there's only 5 people, including myself, which is definitely 5 people are working retail.
Yeah,
And it's a nightmare. But considering how we think it's going to get better, it's not. It's just going to get worse, man. Every single time I'm having this debate with people, colleagues, and everything, it's just going to get much worse, I assure you.
yeah, and it's horrible, but it will, I think, and like no one wants it to. But it's the problem is no one knows, but it's just one of those. It's wait and see, unfortunately, isn't it? And hope.
Yeah.
I'm look. I only anyone I know personally. I think I might know someone's had it, but no, I've not like. It must be awful for people that have like lost family or close friends, and you can't go to their funerals and stuff like that. That would really suck. So I don't know. I just hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I know we got like mutual friends who probably have lost their families and loved ones, which my
Yeah,
major condolences to all of them. You know, it's really tragic, and as the death tolls are still rising, my condolences and my support for all of you do matter a lot. Um, and at the end of the day, that if people do get it, you know, we have to follow procedures, and we don't want to really mix with the people, otherwise we will get it, and then it just becomes worse and worse.
yeah, exactly.
Um, and you know, we just gotta stick with what we got to do. So let's actually move aside from this whole political thing, because I know
Yeah,
this was not the main thing we really wanted to talk about, because even though this was one of the topics, I'm glad this is out of the way actually.
yeah. It's always got to come up, and it's one of those things at the minute.
It
Like it's
has to.
always going to come up in the
It has
conversation,
to,
isn't it?
especially with the music industry going around, which is going to be related to this question. Because
Yeah,
obviously the COVID-19 situation with the music industry is suffering massively. And when it comes to like music organizations are crippling with money financially because they can't put on shows. If they did put on shows, they're not getting the funds they need to pay for the bands, or they would have done, or to pay for the music venues, because basically it's crippling them. So they're kind of like
yeah,
losing money big time. Festivals, summer festivals in Europe are cancelled, especially, well, there's one festival still likely to happen, but we don't know yet, which is Deafy's Open Air.
yeah,
They're thinking about they're still going to be doing with a limited capacity, but realistically, this is me just saying it's not going to be worth it. But
no,
if it happens, it happens. But I'm not going to go. I'm not going to risk my life. I have been told the flights from the UK are able to be happening again. I think it's bullshit. I don't think it should happen. The borders, I don't know if they're open. If they are, it is fucking pointless. Just keep them closed until everything gets back to normal. Um, Basically, the local shows and the big venue shows are just not happening until at least realistically next year or 2022. So that's
yeah. I
also,
get that.
yeah, it's also struggling for bands to actually put out new music, uh, try and make new show, try to do touring, try to put out new merchandise. What's your take on this? Because I know for you being a band frontman, even if it's a hardcore industry or just like any music genre, do you really think it's going to be a very big situation where you can't do anything until realistically, as I mentioned, 21, 22?
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of like gigs that have been waiting to be announced that are in sort of September, October, and November, and we've gone for it. It's fine, but I'm not holding my breath. I want to play them. They're great lineups. They're great feels. Some like with the Hairy Dog in October. It's one of my favourite venues.
Yep.
Liam who's put us on is awesome. But yeah, I'd not hold my breath for him. I'd love to play more gigs this year. We had a weekender next month. We've done. Hello.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with this internet connection. It's been
It's
an absolute
fine. Cool.
day. Please do continue of what you just said. Just
How
it's
far
just
did I get?
it's basically do you really think it's going to happen
Okay,
2021?
no, it's fine. I'd like it to. I'm not holding my breath. We've got we have announced some gigs recently for the rest of the year, but I'm just not sure it's going to work.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of hope for the best. We've got September, October, November. We've got gigs booked, and it's just going to be an as and when sort of updating and seeing what happens. We had a weekender in June we've done wrong that's been postponed or cancelled. We'll try and get over with them next year at some point. We're
Yeah.
meant to be going out with Broken Down in September,
Okay.
but I think that's not going to happen.
Mm.
But we've got these cool gigs. We've got Bash at the Beach. We've got Derby Alt Fest, Spicy Fest. We're playing twice.
Yep.
I really want to play them, but I'm just not convinced. We're all getting ready for them. We're accepting the gigs,
Yeah.
but it's not holding my breath. But yeah, it will take as long as it takes. They won't be able to do like social distancing at gigs. That'll never happen. Promoters won't losing money on it.
I mean, I've read an article about, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and it was about how this whole policy was now to contain the social distancing in shows. I think it's not going to work. It's going to be ridiculous for musicians to contain any energy from fans that do come to shows. And especially when, let's say, for instance, you're standing there in your own square box of 2 meters against each other, not try to contact with any of them or trying to actually socialize with them. You have to stay on your block, regardless of what you do. I think it
work because of that.
Yeah, no, it won't work. It won't work at all. It would just contain out the energy. It will be so bad. Just standing there, even if you headband, it's just, you're just likely in your own box, man. There's gonna be no energy. You can't march. You can't do any karate kicks or any bullshit. You can't do anything in the mosh pit. You can't crowd surf. You can't stage dive. You can't do anything. And considering the fact, depending on the venue size, you might have the capacity level drawn down even more because it's trying to break down the whole social distance gathering as well. And quite frankly, it's just going to be an absolute nightmare. And realistically, I think in the best way, you can have the shows to be postponed until this whole thing actually dies down. That would be the best safety, you know. But I don't know what the government is really thinking of doing here because, you know, it just does not add up. I can understand, as you mentioned earlier, about the economy reasons, but it's not going to work, man. It's really
no, it won't.
No.
It's the thing is, like, with small venues, especially, you say you play like the Mulberry in Sheffield or the Pier Hat in Manchester. They're tiny venues. But if you have to account for social distancing, you get 10, 15 people in there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Promoters book at a margin anyway for some bands, so no bands they wouldn't get them because they wouldn't be able to pay them.
No.
And it'd just be the atmosphere. It's bad, but you can live with. Not every gig has people going crazy anyway, so you sometimes do end up playing to statues. But
absolutely, I mean, I do see where you're coming from. You can just stand there and you can just be like, you just fold your arms and you'd be like, you don't have to do anything. But it doesn't draw any energy. It doesn't create that atmosphere that the bands really want to see. They want to see carnage. They want to see people go crazy. They want to see that big energy like you normally would have in the big venue shows anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Bands feed off that. The amount of times I've stopped doing what we were doing to look around at Gav, our drummer, or Wes, and be like, "What the fuck's going on over there?"
Yeah, exactly. And especially when, from my research, you actually go in the pit and you go crazy as well. So it's kind of like people need to do stuff like that as well, and to even create more of those energies and actually create that atmosphere. So it's going to be really, really hard to consume that we can do this, but if we can't, I think it's for the best safety procedure as we can do, especially if you are in a record company, especially if you're going to be doing touring packages, especially if you're a promoter. Safety comes first, man. I mean, you've got to do it. And
it'd be cool to gig again, but people are more important than it's hard for a lot of music. Like, I work for a living. This isn't a full-time job. But like bands, I say smaller bands, bigger bands like Ingested and that, they work full-time as musicians, and they've lost loads having to pull out of their tour, the Face of Death tour.
Yeah, I remember that. The whole band did an interview with Matt McKinchy from Fox and Harps, and basically they mentioned about how they had to stop doing the rest of the tour, not because of just COVID-19, but there was some family situation. I'm not going to mention it, but because you know it's probably for the best for the privacy. But basically, they had to pull out from the tour because of family concerns. So let's just say they didn't do that. Do they really think they were going to be able to get any more income from the tour? Because even though it's just been cancelled, I think it was probably for the best thing they did. It was just not continue. And obviously it was a big sacrifice, but long run, you can actually get them doing the tour again. And that would probably be the best thing to do. And I know like Jason and that lot would try and speak to Lawrence Shaw to actually do a tour together. That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
and
would be good.
I would love to see that. So if Ingester and allows Shaw and actually go do a tour package together until when coronavirus finish, I'm fucking up for that. You know, I'll be
Yeah,
down for that, definitely. You know, and I'm sure for most of the deathcore fans, or you know, as people call Ingester Slam fans or whatever, I'm not going against it, but you know, they'll be up for it too. You know,
yeah. Oh yeah, it'd be good.
for sure. So let's talk about you being the frontman for Vendetta. Research as I've been seeing is you was not really an original band in the first place. You was kind of like a fan for them in the first place. This was taken back, if I can remember correctly, maybe 10 years ago that you was a fan, you seen them live, and you thought, well, I don't know what you probably thought in the first place, but you probably thought, yeah, I could be a frontman for Colors. I could go fucking crazy. You know, I could do all this stuff for hardcore scenery. Um, Give me your experience from that, man, because you know it'd be nice to get an idea of not just from like a fan perspective, but being like a new vocalist incomer that had to prove the band that you was capable of doing something like this.
Yeah, that's fair. So they used to be in Stamford near where I lived. They used to do every July. They used to call it, I think, Stamford Music Festival, whatever. We always called it Rock on the Meds, and they'd have a marquee tent with metal bands on.
Mm.
And I think I was 13. I saw a band called Neo, like a punk band,
Okay.
and I thought, yeah, I want to do that. And then the year after, we went back because I liked it the first year, and I think Vendetta had played it, and so did a band called Matricide, and they were like a thrashy death metal band. And
Okay.
like I watched them, I was like, right, I want to do this now. This is great. And
Yeah.
I sort of kept watching them, and Vendetta would play together quite a lot over in Stamford and in Peterborough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just sort of kept watching them. I went to a gig once, and there was a fight in one of their pits.
Okay.
A guy had a Vendetta shirt on, and it got ripped, and so the singer jumped off stage and sort of got him another one and got him sorted on it, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I joined a death metal band called Comatized when I was 15, I think.
Okay.
And we did that for 10 years, and it was really part time. We did what we could. We did 3 EPs,
Mm-hmm.
and just had a handful of gigs, but it was good fun.
Yep.
And then at our last gig, I put Vendetta on as a fan because I wanted them to play it because they're one of my favourite bands locally.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked if I wanted to do like the second verse of one of the songs with a guy that was filling in from at the time because their previous singer had quit the band.
Okay.
And a chap called Sam Curtin from Only Life was filling in for him. And they got me up to do like the second verse of their last song. I think it was the last song. It was the second one of them.
Okay.
And that was fine, all good. It was meant to be a one-off. And then the month later, I was speaking to Wes and Gav as well, and they asked if I could come down and do a tryout. And I tried out Punishment by Biohazard, and then a couple of their own songs. And then it was sort of, as soon as this first one finished, it was sort of like, yeah, that'll do.
Okay.
And then I was in. I didn't realise because I've always been like a death metal fan, so I've always just gone like as low as possible. So it's trying to get that mid range was something to learn.
So basically, you had to take some training from like the death metal experience as a vocalist, death metal fan, to actually be capable of being like an angry hardcore vocalist.
Now I can't do death metal. I just sound weak.
No, you can't. I mean, I have to admit, I did a lot of death metal vocals, but now I'm starting to make a lot more of a grunt and pig noises than as they used to be. So
keep dropping pig squeals in, and
I can't pig squeal anymore, man. I can't. It's crazy because I used to do a lot of it, but I think my vocal cords have actually changed as I get more older as well.
Yeah,
so,
you find you sound different. Like one day I can sound awful, next day I think I sound great.
Yeah, definitely. And I know for a fact I don't do much vocals, but I like to hide my vocal talent. But you know, it's something that I can't keep continuing doing all the time.
Yeah.
But no, I mean that's a very, very cool experience. You know, I mean, if any band wants to hit me up being their vocalist, I mean that I'll be fucking down for that too. But I don't think that's gonna happen. Because I am more committed to try and make sure I've got my life going, which obviously everyone's got to do that. That's their first priority. I'm not saying, jump the gun and, just ruin your life by being a metal vocalist or a metal band or anything like that.
All right.
No way. But I think also you gotta have to take some experience for granted because this podcast is all about understanding the experience from metal bands, not just metal bands, but like hardcore bands, slam bands, death metal bands, brutal death metal bands, thrash metal bands, etc. People that listen to this podcast, they need to get an idea of just not the story about how you become a metal vocalist, but the story about when it comes to touring, what the bands can suffer when it comes to income loss, when it comes to like tour disasters. For example, Fall of Hell lost their merchandise, had their personal devices, all that money, and all that sort of back in US tour. It got me an idea that I was frustrated because I liked their music and I was a fan of their music, and it got to the point where I think people don't, when it comes to mainstream media, do not pay attention to the underground scenery very well. And basically, label companies, they do deserve to show underground bands that they can do a lot more than mainstream media.
Yeah.
I know the mainstream media overshadows us so many times because they got their rap, they got their beat downs, they got their pops, they got all that stuff, and I'm completely okay with that. But they can't antagonize or say things like, the underground scenery is not worth it. But I did a session last week with Mr. Floor Gore on episode 1. If nobody's watched it, go and listen to it. There are some bands that are hidden gems, and basically when it comes to like underground scenery, there's going to be a lot of gems. There are a lot of bands that want to prove their worth, that they're capable of doing things, that they can rise up to the top. Like, for example, Ingested, once upon a time 10 years ago, they were like an underground band.
Yeah, I remember seeing them in some weird venues, and then they just got bigger, and they deserve it. They're brilliant. They're all such top guys.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about hard work. It's about dedication. It's about making sure they are capable of showing what they can do. They have done it. And I'm sure a lot of more bands, they want to do that. But I think what people do not see is how come this one band can do it when the rest of them can't do it, for example. And I think you can't be like quite mediocre with your music style. You have to be new. You have to be fresh. You have to show some style when it comes to music. I know for a fact that it is hard work, but sometimes hard work can reap our rewards. It's just how you do it. It's up to you. If you want to go to skyrocket it and you want to be like Ingested, you can't fucking do that. You have to be something like brand new, for example. You can take the same experience like how they done it. You can play in the shitty venues like all the time. You can do that. But it's all about also pushing yourself to an extra level and actually show the companies and the label merchandisers that they can do it. So I would say fair play to Ingested. Shout out to Ingested because they're fucking doing all right. Especially as you said, they're a full-time musician band, and we don't get many of that in the UK scenery. I know we got Pie Cannon as well, even though they're most of them are full-time co-workers as well. But they work their ass off and they get the recognition as well. But there are definitely quite a few UK bands, and I'd like to take an example like Napalm Death because they are a massive band. Rise from the 80s and basically the best grind band in the fucking world when it comes to metal. You think about grind, you think about Napalm Death, you think about that all the way through, especially when they play Scum and all the way through. And you will never ever get an album like that at all. Never in the world again.
No, they're brilliant. I've seen them a couple of times. They played in Peterborough years ago. I was in that old death metal band supported them, and we're like, no one comes to these gigs, and then someone was like, it's Napalm Death, people will be there. And it was carnage, and it was so much fun. And they are like proper proper English band. They're wicked.
Oh yeah,
They,
most definitely. They're one of those bands you definitely want to go and see while they're still around. You definitely want to go and enjoy their experience when it comes to grind tour, grind shows. I definitely recommend for people that they still got the time to see Napalm Death, go and fucking see them. It doesn't matter where they play. Go and see them, man. You know, you would definitely enjoy it. I know a lot of friends of mine, they have seen it. I would have gone seen them for Deathly's Opener this year, but we don't know what the situation is. I still got my ticket. I could probably go, but fundings for me, it's getting really tight because obviously I'm trying to save money for the housing and, you know, trying to step up my outdoor life. But nobody knows what the situation is. So
yeah, it's one of those. We were supposed to be seeing them at Hammerfest. We were going with a couple of our mates. And it was like them, Morty the Venti, one of my friends' bands were playing, and they were basically the two bands we wanted to see.
yeah.
And then Harbinger got announced last minute, and I was like, "Oh, wicked!" And then it all went to shit, and it never went. So
I hate the idea that shows and festivals are starting to cancel one by one. I knew for a fact that when these shows were starting to cancel more and more frequently, you knew festivals were going to happen. And obviously, I don't like to be like realistic, but it was going to happen, and people don't like it. They don't like the truth. It is depressing. I know it's fucking depressing, but it's better to stay safe than actually risk your life and just be fucking dead. Is it really necessary? I mean, is it really necessary? You want to continue like that? I don't know, but yeah. So we would like to talk about you being like not just a vocalist for Vendetta, but let's just say, where did this idea come from when you wanted to be the hardcore UK champion, for example? And I think I've lost my connection with Mr. Tom Amos. This interview, unfortunately, has been really, really difficult. I don't know what the internet connection is. It's been very difficult. So if people are watching this and they think this is technical difficulties, which it definitely is, he just broke out. I'd like to apologize for everyone who has been listening to this interview so far. Connections have been very terrible today. I don't know what it is. Normally my connection for the internet is really, really fine. It could be the fact that Mr. Tom Amos might have a terrible internet connection. I don't know. So if anyone that does watch this, be aware that this has happened frequently. Like, it's not just with me, it's also been with Tom. So I'd like to really, really apologize for any inconvenience about this breakup connection today. I know technical difficulties is always going to happen, but I don't like it when this happens, because when you're doing the middle of a session with people and, you know, it's not very comfortable. It's very awkward. So I like to, you know, say thank you for everyone who does stay patient with us. And, you know, I really like to keep continuing with this interview because, you know, speaking to other people, not just Tom, but if anything, it brings experience for me, and it does bring some like goodness as well. So Tom, thank you for coming back. I know it's been an absolute nightmare for us today anyway, you know. So we got two Toms, which is a little bit bizarre.
Did it on my phone as well. Hang on, there you go.
Okay, so we definitely had internet connection breakups. We definitely had some bad moments. So this has all been recorded. This is not going to be an outtake. It could be, but
Excellent.
the show will go on. Okay.
Must go on.
Speaking
No, that was my fault that time. My internet dropped out, so I quickly loaded it up on my phone and thought I'd just do it off that and do it off my my 4G.
No, that's completely fine. I mean, if it works, then this works, you know. So while you just disappeared, I was going to ask you, what made you really want to become this UK hardcore champion for Vendetta? What was the idea behind it?
What, the actual title?
Well, not just the title. It's just like, look at me, I'm the champion. You fucking come at me, you know.
Can't remember what it was. I'm the only one in the band that likes wrestling, so I need an outlet at some point. But we were playing an Earth Fest in Manchester in January,
Okay.
And our mates band Ligature basically all our mates bands were playing, but Ligature were playing, and they're really good friends of ours. So we had a little bit of a standard scene beef where we were just making memes on each other, giving each other shit. And I saw on Facebook just randomly someone was selling a toy title belt for $5.
Yeah, those ones, yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'll have that. And I put loads of Vendetta stickers on it, and it's like, all right, whoever goes hardest wins it. So it's sort of, for some reason, it caught on. It's stupid, but I love it.
I mean, it brings entertainment to the shows. That's what you definitely need sometimes, especially when we just mentioned earlier about how the atmosphere is really important. But when it comes to those little adjustments, it brings entertainment as well, and that's what people need. So it's kind of like refreshing moments.
And we're not the hardest band on any bill. We played in Derby in January with like Suffer, Old Wolf, and some other bands, and it was like we sound like nothing compared to them. But we'll take the belt and we'll go for it because it's something to talk about, and it's all good fun.
Yeah, I mean that's all it is. It's about bringing entertainment. It's about having fun. It's about making sure concerts are to be remembered by. You know, that's one of the main things I like to go shows for, is to actually bring memories. I mean, I can just mention about Pie Can and Rain and Flammable Whale, but you know, many people would just mention about it. But I like to actually mention this one little story. It's about 16-year-old me or 17-year-old me that went to see Cannibal Corpse, and it was fucking nightmare. It was big crowded show in the Electric Ballroom, and that venue was really cool. Actually, I like to go there again, but I know it's all about fucking it's all this punk emo shit now that's all playing in there. But you know, you can get some good shows here and there. But basically, just to make sure I carry on with this story. I was kind of like topless. I was kind of like all pent up, not like in a very angry pent up, but just like full of energy. I just thought, you know, I'll go batshit crazy. Hammer Smash Face played on the last show, and basically I went complete berserk, and I went for the biggest guy in the show. He was absolutely brute size. He was absolutely pent. He was absolutely huge, man. And the last thing I remember, I deliberately charged at him. And I thought, right, I'm taking him down. I'll do this, you know. Next thing, he blocks me, pushes me away. I went flying. And then the next thing was, I got back up, just about going on my knees, about to get up. Someone kicked me in the head, and I started bleeding all over the face. And I thought that was really, really fun. And people kept, I'm surprised I kept remembering it, actually. And people said, "Oh my fucking god, he's like a tank. He's getting up again," you know. And I thought, right, I'm trying to take down people, you know, pushing them away and everything. But George saw it and I thought, this motherfucker right there, he's got a fucking bleeding on his head. Fucking awesome, man. You know. And I thought, God, George,
he's great. He's one of the best live vocalists ever. He's so funny.
George is. I can talk about George nearly all day if I want to. The best things I can just mention, he's a World of Warcraft enthusiast. Whether he still plays it or not, I don't know. But obviously, the early days he did. He was a Horde player. I think it was an Orc, so I thought that was cool. He's got the biggest neck. He obviously can do a lot of windmilling, crazy amount of times. He's a really cool vocalist, and I know many people like Cannibal Corpse early era when it comes to Chris Barnes, but George for me has been much influence when it comes to being a vocalist, and the reason I say the reason I say that is because he's been there for ages, and you can get some fun out of George. When it comes to Chris, he's been an absolute miserable fucker, and it's not like I'm taking anything away with Chris. It's like he's in 6 Feet Under. They done one terrible tribute album, and I thought that turned me off completely. Chris always becomes so political, and he goes against anybody when he has his opinion. He had a huge beef with Travis Ryan from Cow Decapitation years ago, and I still remember that. And that was back in the US tour, and that was the Summer Slaughter tour. And obviously, Travis just didn't know what the fuck was going on. So that was the whole saga. If people don't know what I'm talking about, just type down Travis Ryan, Chris Barnes, Heat on YouTube, and you fucking find all the interviews and all that stuff. Honestly, it is crazy, man. But yeah, I love going to shows, and I love bringing the energy. I love George. Fucking kudos to George and Cannibal Corpse for still carrying on. But I'm wondering what's going to be the end game for Cannibal Corpse, because I'm sure they can't keep posting out new albums and trying to be like, in a way, generic. It's kind of like getting a little bit boring now, in my opinion. But they're doing really well with live shows. They're still doing very good amount of shows. They're still bringing out a lot of energy. They're still playing old songs like they are. I can't say anything against them. They've done so well for these many, many years, Cannibal Corpse. So I'd like to get your opinion next, because obviously this whole podcast is about bringing some not just opinions, but some ideas about the whole metal scenery when it comes to local shows, when it comes to the worldwide scenery, and the band's expectations, especially your band and anyone else's bands per se. When it comes to local sceneries, when it comes to hardcore sceneries or beatdown sceneries, has there been any big expectations for you guys to say, we definitely need to make sure we get a lot of big fan bases, or try and make sure we bring a big crowd coming to these shows? Because I see hardcore and beatdown sceneries become overwhelming, and I've seen them being a little bit big compared to like death metal scenery now, because there's been a lot of not deathcore bands, but basically, like, I could just say, I'm gonna have to say deathcore, but it's not like an idea I want to really say. But they do have a lot of beatdown and hardcore fans coming to their shows, doing crowd killing and everything, and doing karate kicks, doing all these flying punches moments. Has there been any expectations for you guys to make sure that it's been delivered, or do you think it's just like it's kind of like disappearing a little bit when it comes to local sceneries?
We locally to us, we don't have a lot. We've got one venue in Peterborough called the Met Lounge, which we don't play. We did our album release there, but we won't be going back to it again in a rush.
Yeah,
it's a long story behind it. It's not worth going into. Like, it's all petty shit.
Nah, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, but we put on a gig last year in Peterborough, a little bar called Sam's. They had a basement, and it was awesome. It was good and a good turnout and stuff. But here we don't have people don't windmill or do any spin kicks like that. It's not like that here. Okay. But like if you go to when we play in Manchester,
yep,
we get a lot more of a crowd killing vibe and a lot of two stepping. London, we've done a couple of shows in London since I've been in the band, and it's mainly two stepping and a lot of spin kicks, but not, you don't get as much crowd killing over there. But we haven't been back there for a while, to be fair. Sure. But I think the hardcore scene, the beatdown scene, are great. There's a lot of beef that's unnecessary, and people just calling each other out, just trying to gain some clout off the back of it.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not into that. I try and keep people's bad words out of my mouth. You always want to know what's going on, but you don't want to.
Why do you believe there's some beef going around exactly? Because is it just because people are just against each other, or is it just because they've got nothing else to do? Exactly.
I think a lot of it's one-upmanship. When I was younger in Comatise, if my friends' bands got opportunities, I think, fuck me, why can't we do that? And I think you sort of, once you've done it a while, not that I'm a pro by any stretch, but once you've done it a while, you get into just support all your mates and support everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what, if everyone did it, and I know not every band can progress and not every band can go to another level, but if everyone just supports each other and tries to do it properly, then it's always better. We have more fun when we play bills with all our mates' bands on.
Yep,
because you just see all your mates.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that's it. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I mean, we've got to have to play with bandmates to actually keep the banter going and just keep ourselves in a positive manner, because I've not taken any experience from it, but I know there's always going to be beef when it comes to like specific fan base that comes into our shows and just try and ruins things.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like we don't need that petty shit. We don't, because we're only here to actually enjoy and having a good time, and just, you know, just making sure we actually go home happy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we definitely don't want to be in the position where we got a lot of people giving us beef, and basically, let's say, for example, big dudes are actually throwing punches at women that has no reason for it, and, you know, they don't want to get involved, and I'm sure most of us that doesn't want to include it. I'm happy for people to do crowd killing and shit, but don't target at people randomly for no reason, you know, because I can just say, for example, I have been to shows that has been doing crowd killing, and I get fucking attacked for no reason. And
Yeah.
sometimes it could be beef related, but then sometimes it's just like they get pent up and all that energy just needs to be lashed out. I get that fully, but it's just like, it's not really worth it, especially when there was media coverage about how some of the women, when it comes to articles, that got beaten up from crowd killing and their noses were broken, or they were being beaten up bloody, and, you know, we don't need shit like that. And especially when it comes to like, it wasn't any intentional. If it wasn't any intentional, you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. You know, you shouldn't ruin for anybody whatsoever. You know,
it's one of those. I've got friends that do it, and each their own. I can't do it. I'm too fat. I can't be asked to fly about like that.
right? Okay.
But it doesn't bother me. I got punched last time we played in Manchester. Chris from the test got me, but we hugged afterwards. We laughed about him spilling me pint. I still never forget that.
No.
But I think accidents happen.
Yeah.
But if you're going out your way to just absolutely maul someone, then
I know.
But in the same breath, certain shows call for it. So like proper beatdown, like the harder stuff, it's going to happen, and fair enough.
It will.
Just stay out of the way. I'm not going to stand on the edge of a pit and be surprised when I get twatted.
No, I mean, I know when it comes to stuff like that, I am not surprised. I mean, I know at this time, at his dying age, we are going to get stuff like that now. But the question really is it going to be more of it, or are we just going to get the same amount of people just doing this all the time? Where
it's just everywhere's like different for it, and every gig's different for it. I saw I think I might get it wrong. Cold Hard Truth, one of my favourite bands. They toured with Enemy Mind. I think I might have that wrong. And I saw videos of Tim from Cold Hard Truth just obliterating people, and like I like that. I'm into that. That's cool. But I think I'm just relieved it's not me.
No, exactly.
Like,
you have to touch wood and just be like grateful that it's not you.
If I was playing a show with beatdown bands where I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, and I wouldn't call for it to stop. It's one of those things. Every gig's different. If I was playing a mixed bill, I wouldn't expect anyone to do it. No. It's not something you ever stop and go, "Oh, stop being a knob." But if someone specifically is being a dickhead, then you tell them, but only if they are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just got to be respectful for other people. You got to show there are boundaries, so you just got to be very respectful indeed.
Yeah, exactly. And most people love it, and all I've seen has been really supportive of gigs. If someone gets hit, straight back up, everyone helps in. And I've never seen any proper shit. You see fights and stuff, but it's just spur of the moment thing. It's never malice or anything like that. Usually.
No, I mean, I know there are footage and stuff like that, and you know, it is a bit funny when we do see it, but then sometimes when it is us that does get attacked, and then it just goes out of the hands, and then sometimes it just ruins other people's expectations to enjoy shows whatsoever.
We did a gig in Guildford in December. A band called Sore Teeth put us on, and we played with Vicora, and they're a friends band, and I think it was their bassist, put his bass down while playing, jumped off stage and punched Ian, our bass at the time, and it was so funny because it was so out of nowhere. It was just like, well, what the fuck just happened? And like, I enjoyed that because it wasn't me that got punched.
Yeah, that's always fun.
It's great. That sort of thing's fine. No one goes. I've never seen it where it gets out of hand, which is all you can ask for.
Yeah, of course. Nobody wants that for sure. So let's just go on to the next topic. It's about touring. I know I mentioned earlier, full of how obviously it's disaster when it comes to touring in the US. That there's always going to be issues about fans being broken down, vehicles are going to be destroyed and gears are going to be taken, whatever the case may be. And I've got a fucking ice cream fan going around with their jingling in the background. That's fantastic.
You want one, though?
I'm probably going to get copyright for that. That'd be great. This is all about outtakes today. I swear to fucking God, man. This has been fantastic and full of outtakes.
This will be the forgotten episode, won't it?
Let's not say it's going to be forgotten. It's just people that probably talk about it the most, maybe. We'll see. With you being a tour person, you're going to shows, wherever it is in Manchester, whether it's in Brighton or maybe Cardiff or wherever the case may be. Have you had any touring disasters lately, or have you been like touching wood and being like, I prayed to God that this has never happened to us at all?
I think we've been all right, really. It's me and Ian. Ian's our guitarist. Me and him tend to drive. We usually end up taking two cars, and we don't usually have any problems. Before, a couple of years ago, we had a chap called Warren in the band, and he had a really bad car crash coming home from work one day.
Yeah.
And it was while we were recording our Lord's Brotherhood album, and we had a couple of gigs we had to postpone because of that, obviously, and that it's one of those things.
Yeah.
But it did put him off driving quite a bit. So when he came back, we did our album release show, which was his first gig back.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the week after we played Mama Fest in Brighton.
Okay.
And so I drove down, and I took him and his missus, and I took Shelley, my missus, and then some of the gear.
Yeah.
Because the other lads wouldn't have fit in the car anyway. So we hired a van and for that, but we were so out of pocket at the end of it. We just tend to drive, and then hopefully we sell some merch or get paid a bit.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah,
to cover fuel now. But that's the worst it's been. That they've done a lot of they before I joined, they toured the States, and they've done a couple of UK runs, and I'm sure they've got some stories. I've seen pictures of them camping just in the forest.
Wow.
But I've avoided any problems really. I'm quite lucky.
Yeah, I mean, as I just mentioned, touch wood, that we don't have to go into circumstances, but there are going to be bands that do struggle majorly when it comes to income, and even when it comes to touring, sometimes they have to sleep in their own vans, sometimes they have to camp, sometimes they have to sleep in the garage. When the vehicles are broken down, you have to sleep in there or don't sleep at all.
Yeah.
It is a disaster sometimes when it comes to touring, and this is why when it comes to underground scenery and people don't see the bigger picture like I do, is bands do struggle when they don't have the right income whatsoever to actually live on day by day.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things.
It is. Basically, the next thing we're going to probably just mention about this touring thing, is there any pro tips while you're traveling, apart from taking two cars?
Two cars is good. If you can all get in a van, it's better. Obviously, you're going to save some money if you can just get in a van. But I've not been away with the band properly, really. So all we do is we leave it as reasonable a time as we can. We always try and leave early.
Yeah.
Get there, scrape the place out. I always look in advance, like where I can park and stuff like that, because that's really important.
Oh, very important.
Because we played in Birmingham and basically got done because we couldn't quite, not like fine, but it took us longer than I'm proud of to find where to park, and then it cost us a fortune.
Yeah, that's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, but it's one of those. It's worth it. It's good fun.
I'm sure it was definitely worth it to get fined and then just have your vehicle get some points on there for sure. But
yeah, I've never been caught speeding while driving to gigs. I've never been caught speeding because I don't speed. But there's been some hairy ones. We did a gig in Lowestoft, and I thought I got caught by a speed camera that just came out of nowhere. And I think I was doing like 65.
Really?
In a 60, and it was really late, and the gig had gone on far too long as it was.
Okay.
And you sort of like, fuck. But I'm a lot better than I used to. I used to get really tired and have to pull over all the time on the way home from gigs. And now you sort of get used to it. I put my Spotify playlist on and just listen to horrible music, and it works really well.
I mean, I know for a fact, I've been told there are some pro tips when it comes to driving. Make sure you have music to concentrate you, because if you don't have any music going through, like just basically the wind drafting through from the windows, I think it's going to help. it's actually a SMR type of sound where you can actually just drift to sleep. So music always becomes a recommendation when it comes to stuff like that, because if you don't stay awake or even just make sure you take a break, it's going to be an absolute nightmare where you don't know what's going to happen.
It's that or podcast. If I'm going to the gig by myself, I don't mind putting a podcast on and listening to that on the way back, because I can get into that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
but usually music.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to take some music. Like most of the time, I've been traveling back from home from like London shows or whatever. You got to have music to keep yourself concentrated, just keep yourself awake. I know I like to eat and I like to make sure I keep myself energized and drinking and stuff like that, you know, but that's definitely a tip as well, especially when it comes to just making sure you've got enough nutrition in you as well, instead of just falling to sleep.
There's a really well-placed McDonald's on the way back from Manchester when we play there, and we stop and get a bag of chips, and that sort of gives you the energy to drive home then.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it definitely did. I mean, I stay away from like basically fast food takeaway places, but I like to try and make sure I get like a lunch, just making sure I get back when it comes to just like a baguette and just like bag of chips or whatever, you know, and just make sure it's helpful, you know, instead of going empty stomach and whatever. So we like to do on this podcast some plug-in shout-outs. Before we do that, though, I want to pretty much just jump in the question quickly. Is there going to be any new music for like Vendetta or any projects you're doing at the moment that going to be releasing this year?
Oh, this year. So Vendetta, we're writing now for, I think it's going to be a new album, but I'm not sure how far into it we are.
Yep.
I've got some lyrics to write, but I'm very lazy. One song's done already. We've got I think we're going to line up a couple of guest vocalists on the album, but not like loads of them.
Sure.
But I'm pretty sure it'll be an album. And then my friend Will started a band called The Reviled.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an old schooly beatdown. I don't want to give it a genre because I'll be wrong and get shouted at by internet people. We released one song last month, and then we've got another one that's ready to go now. And then I just need to finish off another one.
Yep.
And then that's like the rest of the demo out.
No,
I've got like loads more. I've got a thrash thing I'm doing with a guy called Joe.
Yep.
But again, I've been lazy. That's it. Doesn't look good on me. And then another friend of mine, we're recording some death metal stuff as well.
Cool.
I've got loads of random shit to record. I just need to get the energy to do it.
Well, obviously, when it comes to like working in a home as well, it doesn't take the time. You know, you just get yourself occupied and you don't have the time to write lyrics or whatever. So it can be a problematic, I suppose.
I tend to be able to do it at the weekend. I've got a little setup. It's not great. I just use Reaper. And then some equipment I borrowed off a friend and just record on that. But I'm so dog shit at it. I don't know what I'm doing. So I record it. I literally just send it to someone, and that's that. And I'm like, help me, because I'm shit.
Yeah, I got recommended to do Reaper. Obviously, you mentioned about it. Definitely. You were the first person to say use Reaper.
Yeah.
You know, you just use Reaper for fucking using your mic conversation. Yeah. And to be fair,
if I can use
I'm just doing video session podcast where I'm just doing the recording from Zoom anyway, and you know that becomes a little bit helpful. But a person called Dominic Pumba from Stillbirth, shout out to you, Pumba, basically mentioned about me using Reaper anyway, and I'm gonna likely be taking it more into consideration and start adjusting my podcast opportunities where I do want to do not just like video interview sessions, but like voice-to-voice sessions as well, which I'm going to try and look for different websites to see where's the best recommendations. I know some of them need music licensing, and that will be an absolute nightmare to get that sorted. But YouTube is pretty much going to be the best income to try and make sure I can get the best recognition at the moment until I get a bit more bigger,
fair.
you know. Especially if I want to use any sound samples to my intros or just use anything, it's going to take a long time, and especially you're going to be needing the music licensing to actually even put it on there. It's just going to be a hands full, you know. So this is going to be the last thing we need to do. And it's going to be fucking shout-outs, where we do give shout-outs to bands that do need the recognition and deserve opportunity for new fans to actually listen to, whether it is thrash metal, death metal, hardcore, brutal death metal. I'd like to get you to start some shout-outs because I, first of all, don't have anything in my mind, and secondly, you deserve the opportunity. Yeah, and you're pretty much my interviewee, so, you deserve the first slot.
Okay, so do you want me to just say a few, or?
Yeah, give me a few names, and then what I would do later, after this is done, I will leave a link down in the description on YouTube for people to click on the URLs or the links, if they call it, and just look at the band's pages, give them a like, give them some listening on Bandcamp, Spotify, or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to forget people, so I apologise in advance. But the first one, like Last Orders, they're a hardcore band from London. We played with them in Nottingham. They're absolutely brilliant, hilarious guys. Broken Down, you got Detest, Gassed Up, Street Soldier. I wish I could think of more bands. Lauren, Morty Viventi. I don't know, Ligature. I'm looking at shirts I've got now. Blossom and Burn. I've got Capital Punishment. They're brilliant. I'm going to get shouted at as soon as this ends for bands I've forgotten to shout out.
Okay, let me put in a disclaimer for any fans. Do not beat up at Tom, okay? Because he's doing his best to make sure he's trying to give people the recognition. If anybody does any beat down, it's going to be me for that fucking UK hardcore title, okay? So please,
you can try.
Bantering. I am going to fucking try. Next time you come to London, I will give you a beating, okay?
We'll see. We'll see.
You will see. Trust me, big man. All right.
It's cool. There's more. You've got like
go for it.
Suffer, Old Wharf. There was other bands. I think of two now. Skin of the Snakes, Stitched. I'm out. There's loads more. I could go all day, but
just make sure you give me the names, and then I can leave the link down in the description.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll send you a message of some after this.
Sweet. So I'd like to give a few shout outs. First of all, I'd like to do a couple of studio companies, but I'll mention one because I can't remember the other ones. I'd like to do a DPK studio that is held by Dominic Pumba from Stillbirth. He's got his own studio going through. He's releasing some new music coming out for Stillbirth in the summer period, but he's also just released some single songs coming out from Vision of Disfigurement from Manchester. Yes. They have got their new album coming out very, very soon. I don't know when it is. I can't remember, and I
think it's middle of June, but I might be wrong.
I'm sure it's June as well. And if Tom is watching this, please don't batter me, Tom, because I do forget about things too. And I'll be looking forward to doing the interview session with you, which I just fucking gave away a spoiler. Yep, fucking great. This is pure outtakes for me today. Clothing material. I like to give a shout out to Fat Lord of Tubs from Indonesia. They do brutal death metal merch all the way through from there. The same thing with Brutal Minds. They do a fantastic job. It's kind of like a co-joint company, so they do a fantastic job. I love all the merchandise they do over there. They've probably got a couple of sales going through. So if you can hassle the wait from Indonesia Asia tour coming through, please make sure that just buy some merchandise and just make sure you support the label or the merchandise companies because they work their ass off, especially doing a lot. And I mean a lot. So with that being said, I will do a few band shout outs. I'd like to do a shout out to Pie Cannon. Pie Cannon are very cool dudes from Scotland. And I know I've done a few fair shares of memories with Pie Cannon. There's a couple of things that's going to be happening with them very soon, but I can't mention anything, especially when it comes to, they mentioned about, well, I think Chris mentioned it, there's going to be some new music coming away soon. But, that's all I can say. I'd like to give a shout out to Cerebral Implication. They are very, very cool dudes, all the way from Las Vegas, Havana. I would love to go to Las Vegas one day and just have a good old chill time with them. I mentioned to Andrew, who is the vocalist, about going to Las Vegas. He said, yeah, come down to Las Vegas. We'll have a good fucking time. We'll have drinks and beers and everything, and that'll be quite cool.
That'd be cool, man.
It would be absolutely awesome, man. I'll look forward to it. I'd like to do another shout out to D-Roar. It's basically DIAROE. They're from Germany. They are releasing a new music, but you can go listen to their album called Das ist gelangt, which it's in German. So if you can't really understand what I'm saying, it's in German. So please do not batter me again, because I had enough of being fucking battered already. Diamond Abortion, they are really fucking cool. If I can remember correctly, they are from Switzerland or something like that. And Diamond Abortion, they just released an album called Catholics. It's a really brutal death metal album. And Alex, the vocalist, is fucking nasty vocalist, man. I fucking love his vocals, man. Give Diamond Abortion a chance if you have the spare time. I'll do a couple more just before we wrap these things up. Embrace Your Punishment from Germany, if I can remember correctly. If it's not from Germany, please don't get angry at me, because, I have reasons to not get angry whatsoever. Embrace Your Punishment are a very cool band. They got the Nameless Keen album. You can listen to it on Bandcamp. You can listen to it on Spotify. You can listen to it on YouTube, in fact. Maybe one day it'll be on a car radio where you can actually listen to it in your car. That'd be nice. One more probably, and I'm just scrolling through. Let's give a shout out to Mental Cruelty. Mental Cruelty are very cool. Lucas, the vocalist, has just done a tribute cover from Chelsea Grin called Recrent. You can listen to it on Lucas's Instagram, which is Lucas Cruelty, or Mental Cruelty's Instagram. You can probably find it from there. You can definitely just check it on YouTube. Definitely Mental Cruelty are very cool. They just had their album Infernus out for 1 year, so it's a really good anniversary. So I like the album, but I'm enjoying to find out what new music they're going to be releasing. I think that's it. I think it's been a very interesting day, interesting day with Outtakes, interesting day to have a chat with you, especially when it comes to like hardcore scenery, when it comes to like understanding what people need to know about not just the coronavirus situation, but when it comes to like going to shows and just making sure you don't be a complete dickhead to other people, ruin other people's life or just their entertainment, especially just making sure everyone's just stays safe. So if anybody has the spare time, just to subscribe on YouTube, just leave a like, even leave a comment, just some feedback on what you think about this show or any of the three other two shows. There's going to be one coming on Saturday. It's going to be with Corey from Crimson Dawn. I'm looking forward to that, and I know for a fact it's going to be the session's going to start about 9 p.m. in my time region, and I think it's about 3 or 4 p.m. in Canada. So it would definitely be uploaded on late hours in Saturday night. And then, onwards with next week. I might as well just do a little spoiler. Monday is going to be I'm going to say 6 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon. It's going to be with the Cerebral Implication drummer, Ricky. It's going to be fucking cool. I'm looking forward to speak to Ricky. I'm looking forward to see how he's been doing, especially with the whole situation with COVID-19 in America, because I know Donald Trump is an absolute asshole, and especially claiming to say to reporters, just ask China this, ask China that. I mean, Jesus Christ, Trump is at another level of stupidity along with Boris Johnson. Just to mention one thing, actually, before we actually finish this, did you see with Boris Johnson did something on YouTube where he asked a question from someone called Mark, where he was asking Boris what type of shampoo he uses to wash his hair.
Yeah, it's in a blue bottle or some shit. Isn't it?
Oh my days! A blue bottle in a plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, Boris Johnson to me, he's just an absolute idiot.
Yeah.
He's just a degrading piece of shit, and especially when it comes to this health situation, I'm sure it was more come to the fact that the government wants people to go back to work and economy-wise. I'm not going to keep talking about this, but just to wrap things up, I don't think Boris was the main call to say that. I think it was along with the government, but I don't support. I don't support Boris whatsoever. I don't support Donald Trump. Even if Trump is watching this, you never know. It could be a slight chance Trump might watch this and he might be thinking, well, this piece of shit is, talking shit about me. Hey, Donald Trump, go fuck yourself. How about that? Blame China. Don't make excuses to China. You're making the mess out of your country and you're making people fucking killing themselves, man. Honestly, it's fucking bullshit. Tom, it's been an absolute fucking pleasure, man. It's been absolutely cool, man. I mean, I really enjoyed having this session with you. And I'm sure we're going to have more chats after the COVID-19. And, we're going to keep in touch about how's things in life after today. It'll be fucking cool. And maybe one day I will powerbomb you to a table.
You can try.
I could try, but I will try my best, all right?
That's all that matters.
I'm sure it is, bro. I'm sure it is. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tom.
No, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Right. Peace out, man.
See you later.